o'clock it is. We'll call this meeting to order, September 5th, Oconee County Council. No one signed up for our public comment session. Okay, so we can skip that. Any council members want to say anything instead? Okay. All right, so then join me, please, for a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Root.
Father in heaven, I just want to thank you first for this day that we're alive, living, moving, breathing. Wouldn't take any of those things and make them granted that they are gifts. Their work, fellowship, for wisdom to guide us towards truth and towards special Father to artery flooding all around to help. We're coming this way, I pray.
Mr. McCall, the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you've all received copies of the August 15th minutes. Any changes, corrections? I didn't see anything that needed to be changed. Anybody else? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Mr. Mulder?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll provide you your summary of your agenda items for the evening. Following my report, you'll have a public hearing scheduled for Ordinance 2017-19. This is a reciprocal ordinance to approve incentive items for a project that's locating in Pickens County. The project name is Project Exodus. Again, this project is locating in Pickens, but in order to qualify it for a multi-county industrial park and the respective incentives, a neighboring county, a bordering county must also pass an ordinance to participate in that multi-county park. No different than what Pickens usually does for us on our projects. So just to be clear, this is not a project locating in the county, but rather it's a project for Pickens. Tonight we'll have the third reading as well, following the public hearing. Second readings this evening, 2017-18. This is an ordinance that would approve incentives, specifically a fee in lieu of tax agreement, multi-county park, and special source revenue credit for Project Maxwell. Project Maxwell is an existing expansion here in this county, so this is a project that will locate here. It's a significant investment and job creation for the county, so this would be the second reading to approve that. Ordinance 2017-20. This ordinance would authorize the execution of a lease agreement with the Foothills Alliance, which is an abuse, investigatory, and prevention and counseling service that works very closely with our sheriff's office, specifically the investigator responsible for child and elderly abuse prevention and enforcement. It is a partnership. The lease would be for the Lure Lane House. It's the property that we purchased as part of the detention center expansion. We used it as office space for a short period of time during construction, but now we have no further future use of that property. We were looking for an opportunity to either auction it or find an intended use. And Mr. Tim Rice with the Sheriff's Office came to me with the idea of moving them next door. Right now, any of our citizens that require that service must drive to their Anderson office. So this will actually provide a location more proximate to our citizens here in the county and create a better working opportunity between the Sheriff's Office and the Foothills Alliance. So this ordinance would actually approve that lease agreement with the Alliance. Next item is Ordinance 2017-21. This ordinance would allow the granting of an easement right to Duke Energy for a service line that will service the American Legion post. Their new post is located next to the DSS, Veterans Affairs, on our property on that side of town. So they need to actually come through our property in order to provide the electrical service, and they're asking for us to grant them an easement right to do that to benefit the American Legion post. Ordinance 2017-22. This ordinance would provide for an amendment to Chapter 26 of our Code of Ordinances, specifically to eliminate the Scenic Highway Commission and then defer the responsibilities of that commission onto the Planning Commission. The Scenic Highway Committee and the responsibilities of that are merely to hear the potential creation of additional scenic highways in the county. So we'd like to defer those responsibilities onto the Planning Commission and do away with the Scenic Highway Commission itself. Ordinance 2017-23. This particular ordinance would authorize the refunding of a Series 2007 bond that was issued by the county on behalf of Kiwi Special Tax District, the fire district. They have approximately $530,000 that they would like to reissue those bonds with. The purpose of this reissuance is to realize savings due to lower interest rates that's actually being seen on the market right now. With the impact of the state retirement increases, they're seeing an impact to their operating budget. So they would like to try and find a way to free up some operating capital to incur those additional expenses. This bond is paid for by the Kiwi Fire District, is not paid for by the county, and does not count towards our legal debt limits in our debt service fund. This is strictly paid by the fire district, so that would give them an opportunity to save a little money on their annual payment. So this ordinance would actually allow the refunding or reissuance or refinancing, if you will, of that particular bond. Ordinance 2017-24. This particular ordinance would allow the county to convey and donate 22 acres located in the Golden Corner Commerce Park. It's the first parcel when you come into the existing temporary entrance on the right. Again, it's 22 acres. It would allow for the Oconee Economic Alliance to seek a loan through the Santee Cooper spec program and allow them to see the construction. There's an MOU also attached, or is that finished up? No. Okay, so we're still working on the MOU to actually define the relationship responsibilities between the county and OEA prior to third and final reading. No first readings on ordinances, no first readings on resolutions. We do have some action items for you this evening. First of which, the Honorable Christy Hubbard, the County Auditor, is in attendance to provide her millage proposal, her annual millage proposal for the tax year 2017, which actually plays into the fiscal year 2018 budget as approved by County Council. I believe she is expecting a decision tonight on the millage. It's important for her to get that as quickly as possible so she can finalize her calculations, set the millage, and prepare the tax bills to go out for the tax year 2017. The next item is engineering services for landfill remediation. This item was actually brought to the Law Enforcement Public Safety Committee in the wake of a DHEC site inspection. They noted some groundwater issues that they would like us to remediate, in addition to additional monitoring wells to monitor a larger area around the landfill to monitor that groundwater infiltration. So in response to DHEC's mandate, we're asking you to approve the engineering services for that landfill remediation in the amount of $107,128. Just a point to note, we have been setting aside the solid waste reserve of $1.7 million for this particular type of purpose, knowing that remediation and monitoring of closed landfills can be very, very expensive. We've had that money set aside for quite some time now, 8, 9, 10 years or more, in order to resolve any particular issues that we may have with DHEC, and that's why it's there, and that's where the money is proposed to be appropriated from. That would leave a balance of $1.585 million. So we're asking you to approve those engineering services. The action plan, if you will, the county's response was submitted to DHEC after their inspection, and they have approved and signed off on that approach as suggested by the county and our engineer. That plays into the the next discussion regarding action item, and that's an award to Regenesis Remediation Products Incorporated in the amount of $269,500 to also be paid from the Solid Waste Reserve Fund, as I had indicated earlier. This is a remediation technique to go in and install a ground product that will serve as a barrier, if you will, and a cleanup product of any contamination due to leakage from the closed landfill. One of the differences in the solid waste or the landfill over by Strawberry Farm is it is not a lined landfill. Years and years ago, DHEC did not require linings, if you will, in landfills, which creates opportunities for leachate and other contaminants to actually soak through the soil, through the landfill. So that's why we have all the flares and monitoring wells to monitor the groundwater and any additional spread of those particular items around the landfill. This particular scenario is this particular approach is one that actually serves as a blockade to continued leaching, if you will, of the groundwater or the pollutants into the groundwater, and will serve as a cleanup product that actually has a reversing agent to it as well. We're asking for, at this point, the approval of $269,500 to try this particular approach that DHEC has approved before we continue on with a full scale remediation contract. So we're asking you for the $269,500 to begin that process. The next item is action item is approval to begin seeking bids for the replacement of the rock quarry crushing plant and ancillary expenses to include electrical upgrades as necessary, relocation of plants, relocation of the office building and shop, so that we can begin the mining into the other direction where the remaining product is available. So what we're asking at this point only is for you guys to approve and direct staff to begin seeking bids for the purchase of a rock crushing plant. And that obviously will have to come back to council for approval once the bids come in. So this is not the actual approval of the purchase, but we're just looking to seek your guidance and direction to whether or not you'd like to seek bids. We've submitted the report that will accompany the decision to purchase that equipment. You've seen that, and it's been made available, so we're asking for that direction. The next item is a discussion of an extension for the due diligence period, review period for the former courthouse. The developer is still awaiting the final historic designation approvals from the federal government and their particular agency responsible for that. So they're asking for the extension to be given until October 30th, 2017. Mr. Markovich, who represents the developer, unfortunately is out of town, so he's unable to be here today. He sends those regrets. He would have liked to have been here for that, but it's like I said, I think he's in Minnesota or someplace up north. You see your board and the commission appointments listed on the agenda. We do have 2 executive session items that we still need following the business portion of the meeting. That's our agenda for this evening, Madam Chair. I'll be glad to answer any questions now or entertain them at a later date or later time.
Okay, let's continue then with public hearing for Ordinance 2017-19, an ordinance to develop a jointly owned and operated industrial business park with regards to Project Exodus. No one has signed up for this public hearing. Anyone want to comment at this time? Any written comments to the clerk? Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and close that public hearing and go to the third reading of Ordinance 2017-19. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 It's unanimous. Second reading of Ordinance 2017-18, authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement regarding Project Maxwell.
Motion approved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Ordinance 2017-20, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a real property lease agreement between Oconee County as lessor and the Foothills Alliance as lessee.
Motion approved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Zipping right along. Ordinance 2017-21, an ordinance granting certain easement rights to Duke Energy.
Motion approved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. 2017-22, an ordinance amending Article 3 of Chapter 26 of the Oconee County Code of Ordinances. This is in regard to eliminating the Scenic Highway Committee and substituting the Planning Commission to carry out the duties that formerly belonged to the Scenic Highway Committee.
Make a motion. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2017-23, authorizing the issuance and sale of Monadic exceeding $530,000 general obligation refunding bond. This is regarding the Kyoya Fire Tax District.
Make a motion. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
2017-24, an ordinance authorizing the transfer of county-owned real property located within the Golden Corner Commerce Park comprising approximately 22 acres to the Oconee Economic Alliance.
Make a motion. Second.
Any discussion? When was that MOU going to become available?
Madam Chair, I can get it to you, council, tomorrow. Today, just at the end of the day, I got approval that we're on the same
Oh, you're on the
page.
same page,
So-
okay. Okay, that's fine. Any other discussion on this? All in favor? Aye. Okay, taken care of. No first readings or first and final readings of ordinances or resolutions. Action items. Ms. Hubbard.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This evening I've came to talk about the millage proposal for tax year 2017 for the Oconee County budget, for the school district of Oconee County budget, and Kiwi Key District 17 budget. I wanted to start off first with who does what. There was a little bit of confusion last year, so I just wanted to go over this a little bit. The operational millage is set by the governing body, which is Oconee County Council. You will set the millage for the county and school operations, and I will set the bond millage for the county and school bonds payments that are due this year. In previous council budget meetings, the council approved a budget for the county for $34,190,058. That's a slight increase over last year of about $203,443. The school district of Oconee County's budget was approved at $65,797,636, and that's an increase of $2,577,420. Duke Energy came in this year. It came in higher than last year. It came in at $158,839,640 assessed value. Previous year, it was $149.1 million. One thing that did increase as well is the manufacturing abatement for Oconee County, for Duke Energy's assessed value for Oconee County. What that means is the assessed value for the manufacturing abatement is an abatement that the business gets off of the county operational millage. So for that amount, they're going to get 73.9 mils credit on $27 million. The High Point bond payment this year is $320,610, and their tax base is expected to bring in $968,036. After the bond payment is made in March, the treasurer, Greg Nowell, will distribute $647,426 to all entities of the millage. The 2017 value of a mill for county operations and county bond, the value of a mill is $537,612. The school district operational mill is worth $402,469, and the school district of Oconee County bond value of a mill is $564,670. If you're wondering why all of these numbers differ, I was going to try to explain that a little bit. A county mill is derived from gathering the total assessed value for the county less any manufacturer abatements. Abatements come from Duke Energy and all the other manufacturers in the county. What this is the businesses receive a credit for machinery that they have put into service within the last 5 years. And again, the value for the machinery is abated from the county portion of the millage only. A school operational mill is derived from gathering the total assessed value in the county less the total assessment for legal residential properties in the county. This calculation came into effect with Act 388 in 2006 and is called the school tax credit. This now has to be done to prevent a shortfall in operational revenue for school districts when tier dollars do not equal the school tax credits that the county is giving. In 2016, the legal residential assessment was $162,201,150. If you multiply that by the school operational millage last year of 110.1 mils, you will see that this county school credit, the school tax credit was $17,858,346. The 2016 tier dollars that the school district received for reimbursement from the state for that was $15,358,376, and that's basically a shortfall of right at $2.5 million. A school bond is derived from 100% of the total assessed value for the county. As you all know, reassessment year was 2015 for Oconee County. With the delay last year, it is now being implemented in tax year 2017. Basically, reassessment is a process of revaluing all the property in a county to assign new values for tax purposes. How often does reassessment occur? By law, the counties have to reassess properties every 5 years. There are special requirements when calculating millage the year reassessment goes into effect. Per state law, it requires the counties to adjust their millage after reassessment of property values to ensure that local governments receive the same amount of taxes as they did the year before. This is done to prevent a windfall, positive or negative. This year sets a new millage base until the next reassessment year. Once I show you what the calculation for the millage base is, you can increase that from the growth, and you could also increase it CPI population if you would like. The calculation for millage reassessment for South Carolina Code is 2016 taxes levied divided by 2017 adjusted total assessed value. That equals your base millage. I'm just going to give you some definitions. Prior year taxes levied is total tax dollars charged for tax year 2016. Adjusted total assessed value equals 2017 assessed value minus growth. Some examples of growth are assessments for property, real and personal, or improvements not previously taxed. Subtract assessments for new construction, assessments for renovation of existing structures, and subtract assessments for assessable transfer of interest, also known as a deed transfer resulting from a true sale. I'm going to show you what I did and the reports that I ran to come up with the formula for the reassessment. The first thing we have to do in my office is we have to determine what the total assessed value is. The assessor provides us with the real estate value, aircraft, boats, motors, documented vessels, business personal property, manufacturing, utilities, railroad vehicles, manufacturer abatement, and the legal residential assessment is compiled by my office. I then run reports to come up with the total taxes charged for 2016. The total taxes charged for 2016 was $119,401,408. From that, what I do is I take the millage from all the entities and I come up with a percentage. County operation percentage was 32.9, and the school operations was 51.2. So the total taxes levied for county operations was $39,283,063. From that, I removed the abatements from last year, and that gives us a total of $37,748,963, and that's in yellow at the bottom. Do the same thing for the school, except I removed the tier money that they received from the state. So that gave them total taxes levied of $45,775,144. From there, I have to calculate growth. And basically what we do is we compare the ending year 2016 totals with the totals that we have for 2017. The school growth was $17,663,891, or 4.2% of the assessed value. The county growth was $18,305,741, and that's approximately 3.3% of the county operational value. If you wonder why those are different, the school number only captures 6% growth. No 4% homes are included in that. And for the county captures all growth, and it also captures all abatements from the manufacturing businesses. Here we can actually look at the calculation. The county operations calculated for reassessment. You take the total dollars levied divided by the current year assessed value less growth, and that equals a base millage of 70.3. When you calculate growth, the assessment for growth over to mills, it comes up to 2.3 mills, and the total county operations this year could be 72.6 mills. The next is school operations. You take the prior year taxes charged divided by the current year assessed value less growth, and that comes up with a tax base of 113.7 mills. From there, if you wanted to add growth, that equals 5 mills, and the total millage, if growth is captured, would be 118.7 mills. The next step is to calculate the town and special district values. We have to do the towns to come up with what the value of a mill would be for emergency services. You add all 5 of the municipalities together, and that comes up with a value of $51,456,076. And when you remove that amount from the county operational, it makes the value of the 2.9 mil value $486,156. And then we do the same for District 17. Their total assessed value is a little over $47 million, and their value of a mill is $47,066. From here, we have to deduct non-millage generated dollars, and this is the fee in lieu of payments. It can be merchant's inventory, manufacturer's reimbursement, motor carriers, penalties, and any prior year delinquent collections, and so that would be tax year 15 and back. So what I did is I took the first number in green is what the county approved for their operational budget, $34,190,058, and I deducted $1,796,953 from that, which comes from the fee in lieu of payments and everything else that I just read off, and it comes up to a total of $32,393,105. That is the number that millage needs to generate the revenue. For the school district, we do the same thing. We take the budgeted dollars approved, we minus out the tier dollars that they received in 2016, and then we remove the fee in lieu of, merchant's inventory, manufacturer depreciation, And all of those from their total, which that was $4,020,111. And their total millage should set to fund $46,419,149. This is a chart that shows you the millage that will be required to fund the money that was approved in the budgets. The total for the school would be, for the county would be 70.4 mills. The county bonds would be 3.5, and that comes up to a total of 73.9. For the school operations, it would take 115.3 mills, 31 mills for bonds, and that would get a county total millage of 220.2. The next page is I just recapped what I just went over and broke it down into the county and into the school and then the total. Again, county operations and Tri-County Tech would need to be 70.4. Bonds would need to be 3.5 for the county. Total for the county, 73.9. Operational for school would be 115.3 to fund the approved budget. For bonds, it would need to be 31 mills to cover the bond payments. That's a total of 146.3 mills. And that is an increase of 5.2 over last year. If you're wondering what the increase would do to tax bills, I did bring some examples with me. And when I go over this, you have to keep in mind that this was reassessment, so values may change a little bit for everyone. But a $100,000 home in 2016 versus a $100,000 home in 2016 for a non-resident, for a rental home, or for a second home for someone, an increase would be $31.20. For a residential home, a $100,000 home, there would not be an increase because the school tax credit is 100%. So anything that's raised in the school operational millage will be 100% given as a credit for the school tax credit. And the same thing for anyone with homestead. $100,000 home, they should not see an increase either. Again, unless their value increased or decreased some. For a $250,000 home, for a non-resident, their increase would be $78. And again, for a legal resident or a legal resident with homestead, there would not be an increase. For a $25,000 vehicle, you would see an increase of about $7.80. For a $50,000 vehicle, it would be about $15.60 increase over last year. The Kiwi Fire District, they will need 14.5 mills, and they are expected to bring in revenue of $682,457. And last is the municipality millage. Salem increased from 36.4 mills to 37. Seneca went from 59.3 to 60.5. Walhalla, West Union, and Westminster remain the same. Does anyone have any questions?
What was the millage for the school last year?
110.1.
That's what I thought. And it's what now?
If you wanted to fully fund their budget, 115.3, I believe.
Well, I had one of the people on the board say they'd be happy with their 110.1. So, I think we ought to hold it there.
That's your decision, but the one thing about the millage law and how you recalculate is to make sure that everything's apples to apples. So that's what you would need to look at and consider for the millage base.
Well, they came before council, said they were perfectly happy with no millage increase.
Again, that's your decision, sir.
Mr. McCall, Mr. Hart, I think that was with the assumption that millage value stayed the same. The value of the mill stayed the same, I think.
Obviously, the value of the mill's going up.
It's gone down.
It's gone down. It's gone down.
Yeah, people's property taxes are going up.
I think Ms. Hubbard is saying to fully fund at last year's levels, we'd have to raise the millage.
Village.
Yeah, for both the school and county operations, right?
County operations would need 1/10 raised over what the millage would be, millage base would be. And the school operations, if you wanted to make it apples to apples from last year, it would be the 113.7. So basically what I'm saying is 110.1 mills this year is equivalent to 113.7.
The value of a mill went up, not down, right? It's the tier money that they're not getting that's affecting the law.
When you take growth out, real estate actually went down. So when
Total value of the mill.
the total value of a mill went up, but for the millage calculation, it went down. That's where the growth is. If you want to add the growth back in, that's where your increases were for 2017. The way the law's written, we have to separate them this year. Or normally, I would just come up here and just tell you one millage. But here, we had to break it down into the base, into growth, so you could see.
How much will this, education bill be this year? We increased it $1 million this past year. How much is it gonna increase this year?
What bill are you speaking about?
Well, they came before us, several months ago, and we had an increase of, $1 million above what it was in 2015. So what I'm asking is, what are we looking at this next year as far as the increase?
It's going to be higher. Where's Gloria? Can you come up, please? That 1.2 million increase was due to the South Carolina retirement, was it not?
There is a 1.2 increase.
Because, okay, what are you looking at for next year? For that,
For
the South Carolina retirement, the additional
the year that
monies?
we're in right now, there's a $1.2 million increase. We're getting about half of that from a credit,
Right.
so over $600,000. But we can't project for 18, 19. We don't know how much it would go up.
You did have a projection.
We had it for 17, 18, but not for 18, 19.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. And
Right.
it was projected, what, 3 million?
Yeah, it's going to double. It's going to go up for us too. We all got the 1% credit. So it's going to go up for all of us.
And then they miraculously found out how many $1 million to give to the hospital for the Y?
3 million. 3?
That's a 20-year
Yeah.
proposal. We're not giving them $3 million in 1 year. That's $150,000 over 20 years.
Regardless, it first, 1 minute we're strapped, and next minute we have funds at leisure. In my district, I'm dealing with people who live hand to mouth. And I'm not happy with this.
Also, the $3 million is not operating money. That is from our capital budget and would require us to adjust how we do our capital projects over the next few years by the $150,000 that would be the annual payment, assuming that does go through.
It's all taxpayer money.
Yes, it is.
I don't care which pocket it comes out of, it's all taxpayer money.
Okay, so,
If you would like to know, I do have the numbers for what 110.1 mils would generate and what 113.7 mils would generate. 110.1 would bring in $44,311,837, and that would be a shortfall of the budget about $2.1 million. 113.7 mils would bring in $45,760,725, and that's a shortfall of about $658,420.
Can you tell them what the difference is in the 110 for this year and 110 for last year? Do you know what I'm saying? Okay. I think what that means, we don't have the exact number, but 110 mils in 16-17 brought in more money than 110 mils will bring in this current year.
Out of the total real estate assessment, almost 9 million of that was growth. So last year, the fair market value in 2016 was $8,933,277,264. In 2017, the fair market value was $8,741,607,1. And that was before growth. And then we would add in growth to that.
Ms. Hubbard, is there any way to capture that growth for going forward? I mean, are we only losing it this year, or are we gonna?
Whatever millage that you set this year is going to be the base for the next 4 years. You can capture growth, that is on it's the slide that is green and blue.
page 15 and 16.
Make sure we're talking about the same kind of growth. Are you talking about growth in value from new investments in the county, or are you talking about growth in millage due to the growth in the county? There's two different definitions of growth that we're talking about here. Capturing growth in your millage is allowing you to increase your millage by a certain percentage due to the CPI in your county. Right? I mean,
No.
Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about capturing the growth in dollars that have been
The growth in
invested?
dollars of assessed value for real estate and all the other personal property in the county.
Yeah. My goal would be to lock in, make sure that we're not giving up ground here, because we're going to have some serious budget issues over the next 4 years, both the county and the school district, if we're going to move backwards. I mean, I hate to hear that the value of the mill discount, not counting for growth, has gone down. I mean, that shocks me. And I know that's not you. You're just doing the math. My house went up, my little piddly house on Stribling Street went up $5,000. I don't know. It just shocks me that we're coming out of the worst recession with some of the, unprecedented real estate price value declines, and our millage goes down after that. I mean, it just is illogical. I mean, it's just hard to believe. But my goal would be to keep the amount of dollars that we receive in tax payments from the taxpayers the same, or if we can add growth in and receive more based on the same millage, to do that. Because the whole goal all along that I've said my goal was to increase the value of the mill. And I think all of council would agree, and I know the school district would agree as well, that we want to see the value of the mill continue to increase. Now, unfortunately, I guess the economy has scuttled that mission, at least for this assessment period. But is it possible that we can maintain our revenue without cutting ourselves off at the knees? I mean, is that... So capturing growth, whatever that means, and I know I'm not being succinct here because this is sort of complicated. But, this doesn't look good. So.
Actually, we are getting more revenue off of the same millage
Okay.
that we had last year.
Okay.
We actually were able to, through our analysis of revenues and projecting and proposing a revenue budget for county council, in the budget process this year, it's actually higher than what it was the prior year. We were able to capture an increase in that revenue due to our expectation that we would see all those assessment values grow where they did grow, which is why I showed you that big, long assessment spreadsheet of all the different broken down categories. So our revenues actually are going to be generating $230,000 to $250,000 more this year than it did last year on the same millage. 73.9.
73.9 will bring in what you approved.
Which is higher than what we had last year. So we did capture some of that increased revenue growth as a result of some increase in assessments and growth in the county.
The problem is Act 388 that was passed in 2006. It has, in some counties are making money off of the tier money. In Oconee County, they are losing money.
$2.5 million loss. So the revenue that the taxes would generate is 17 plus, but the state's only sending them 15 plus.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that we have to keep in mind is the legal residential 4% rate is growing. The number that I used was based on June 30th, 2017. So that was for the end of tax year 16. Right now, it's probably already at 163 million over the 162 million it was last year. They will receive a little CPI bump over the tier this year, but it's usually only right at $200,000.
So the county's operational millage, nor our bond millage, is affected negatively. It's just the school district that's going to take.
The county can keep theirs at 73.9 and remain in the parameters of the formula, yes. The school can remain in the parameters of the formula, but it's going to be more than what it was last year.
What's going to be more?
If you want to fully fund their budget, you will need to do 115.3 mills.
Right.
Whereas if you want to fully capture growth, you have the right to go up to 118.7. So if you fund it at 115.3, you're not taking all of the growth that you can. But the base millage for this year, to make 110.1 apples to what it was last year, would be 113.7 this year.
You're just saying legally we could increase it that much. That's our legal ceiling that we can increase it. But
Without capturing any of your CPI or growth, yes, you can go up to 118.7.
so even if the school district were to cut out that $150,000 a year in payment to the YMCA, that's just a drop in the bucket. That's not gonna make the difference here. We're still off. You say $2.5 million on an annual basis shortfall.
It's right at 2.5,
Yeah.
yes.
That's $2.35 million if you factor that in.
Mm-hmm.
problem I have with the drop in the bucket is, I got people in my district, countywide, that we're trying to help pay their taxes over, losing a house over $150. That's not coming from me, that's coming from the delinquent tax office. It goes from the blind trust, blind charity. Now, $150 is a drop in the bucket to a lot of people. But for some people we're helping, that's a lot of money. And if we don't watch this and just keep going up and going up, more and more people lose their houses. Where's the fairness in that? Where's the, we're here to serve the people.
Mr. McCall, I'm not trying to sway you either way when I tell you this, but if their house was valued at $100,000 last year and it's their legal residence, and it's valued at $100,000 this year, they will not have an increase in tax. This will mainly hit the rental homes, the 6% properties, and any second homes that people may have and their vehicles.
But the problem I have, Christie, is the school says, well, the building big expensive buildings, that's different money. It's all, it just grinds me that it's all taxpayer money. The money comes from the taxpayers, no matter whether I take it from Mr. Hart's desk or I grab this desk over here. It's all the same money. And then to rationalize that, it's beyond me. And the building don't make the kids smart unless, of course, you build smarts into a building somewhere. Of course, I got kicked out of a school board meeting for saying that one time, but regardless, if you're going to spend money on teachers, yes. If you're just going to spend money on quality programs and things like this, yes. But spending money, I'm not fussing at you, but spending money on a big whopping building and think that the kids are going to come out blooming geniuses is wrong. The teachers make the difference, and that's why I have a problem. It's just frustrating. And then, like I said, I go back to, I got people living on rice-a-roni and all this other stuff, and my district is probably one of the poorest districts. So I got more people living on the verge of poverty and in poverty than anybody else, and this is why I go on such a tirade with this. I'm not fussing at you, Chrissy.
I understand.
Mr. McCall, I agree with you that the smarts are not in the building and that our school district needs to make sure those funds get to the classroom as much as possible. I mean, that's what education is about. I don't even remember what the buildings look like that I went to school in, but I remember the teachers that affected me and that made an impact. But what we're talking about here, those folks, and I have them in my district as well, sir. I mean, I have the Mill Hill, I have Utica. You want to talk about poor? That's one of the poorest areas in the county. And the good news about what Ms. Hubbard is proposing is it would not affect those folks. It would not affect those that are living hand to mouth to keep their house. It doesn't affect those with primary residence. I mean, not that I'm proposing a tax increase, but the mill value went down in terms of what we're being required to pay by the state. I mean, right? I mean, that's at the end of the day, we're being handed a debt that we didn't have any control over creating, that through the pension fund that we're now having to pay for due to whatever happened down in Columbia or on Wall Street or whatever. And so those are problems. This is where the buck stops. It stops with us, unfortunately. I think it probably should stop somewhere else, but we get to be the lucky folks to figure out these issues. And I don't want to be in that seat, but that's the seat I'm sitting in. So I think $2.5 million is an awful lot of money to ask them to cut in 1 year, and they'd have to continue to cut it each year. I wasn't anticipating any of the mill value to go down, because 2008, we thought that was the bottom. You would have thought the 2011, 2012 was the bottom. Turns out 2016 is the bottom. Hopefully. I don't know, it's not good.
I think all of us up here have a concern for education. And we're all dedicated to education. But has there ever been a private audit on the education department?
Sir, I'm not sure. You would have to ask Mr. Mulder or possibly a school district representative.
The school district has an annual audit every year, just like we do, to account for the funds and how they were spent. So, yeah, they get an audit done every year.
Okay.
All right, so decision time.
If you would like to talk about this in executive session, I'm willing to wait to the end. If you need to talk about it amongst yourselves.
I'm not sure that we can do that.
I don't even know.
Hey, Paul, the reason yours went up, Seneca busted you for 1.98%. That's why yours went up.
No, my value, the assessed value of my property went up.
Yeah, that's
5,000.
what they did. They upped
Mr. Mulder and I earlier today were looking at those assessment values, and 4% went up. We took a huge hit on 6% that as a group went down, and those are some of the most expensive properties in the county. And that's where the losses came in. That was unfortunate, but it is what it is.
What is the millage now? I mean, right now?
The bottom line,
No, I'm talking about, what is it last year?
the total millage,
Yeah.
215 mills. It would be an increase of 5.2 to fully fund both budgets.
And that's to fund it at exactly the same as it was last year.
No, that's where you would use your millage base. So the schools would be 113.7. Plus bonds. And then the county would be 70.3 plus bonds.
But what I'm saying is that to fund exactly the same it is last year, or are you saying is an increase? Monetary, not mil, monetary.
Monetary is equal.
That 113.7 and 70.3, that doesn't add up to 215.
You have bond millage in there as well. Last year, county bonds was 3.2, and school bonds was 31 mils. So the total county was 73.9, and the total school was 141.1 last year.
That adds up.
God, why is it we listen to all these people in the past make all these budget requests and all this, no better lack of word or big show, and all that stuff we sat there don't matter a hill of beans until Christie gets over and tells us what the bottom line is. And then we're led to believe in our little minds, at least my little mind, I'm led to believe one thing, and then when Chrissy gets up here, that's not the way it is. She's telling me she hitting us with the hard facts now, regardless of what all the rest of these departments and stuff come up with, it didn't mean anything. I'm not fussing at you, but,
Can I answer?
huh?
Can I answer?
Yeah,
Keep-
tell me, because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Keep in mind a couple of things. Number one, the timing of our budget adoption requirement hurts us in regards to having the same information that Ms. Hubbard has whenever she comes and presents this information to you. Okay, so we have to actually approve a budget prior to having all of the revenue numbers in from the state, from Duke, and from other sources. Second point is, when you're talking about the department heads and the budget requests that we submitted, that doesn't have anything to do with revenue. The only thing that Ms. Hubbard is telling you is in order to generate the revenue that's been approved in the budget, this is what your millage needs to be. The whole reassessment part of it, that's a very convoluted process. Basically, what she's telling you is, in order to generate the money that you said you needed for revenue in your budget, here's what your millage has got to be. Now, she explained how she got to that millage due to reassessment numbers and the impact it had, okay? So it's an important part of it, but let's move to the end. Here's what we need to satisfy your budget. Here's what you can go up to. Those are all the decisions you have to make at this point. If we could align the revenue and the state's Department of Revenue process and align that from a timing standpoint with the county's budget process, then what you're saying wouldn't be true anymore. You wouldn't have people coming in asking for things, not knowing what the revenue is going to be. You would have that information ahead of time, right? Now, for example, even though we didn't have all of our numbers, through the help of a lot of people in this organization, Ms. Hubbard included, we sat down and started forecasting our revenue for the county differently this year by breaking it down into individual assessment values. And we actually came within just a few $1,000s of being correct, which is why our millage is only 73.9, and that's all that we need is 73.9, because we forecasted the growth, we forecasted all the increased values and the additional revenue in our budget to put us right on line. So when you say that we came up earlier and said, oh, we need all this, not knowing the information, we came within 0.1 mils to the good, actually, of where we actually are going to end up. That's pretty strong when you talk about 73.9 mils.
Yeah, but you've handled, guess what I'm trying to say is, you've handled, on your side, the county departments, you've handled them with excellently, did a great job. But the school, on the other hand, is disappointing me with, we got an extra 3 here, $1 million here, we got this, we're gonna build a big school for God knows what in the future, and it's just rampant there, and then we're the ones, us 5 up here, are the ones that take the heat after the vote. The phone rings off the hook, and well, nobody else raised taxes. The county council raised the taxes, and we got to answer these people. And sometimes they don't want to hear my answer. They want to hear about hanging and beating me up and running me out of town and other things. because they're upset, and you gotta take it.
Yes, sir, it's a
And I
tough
expect
position.
to have an answer when the phone rings tomorrow. I'll say, look, I did the best I could.
It's a tough position you're in, I understand. It's a tough decision. You know, we all face those hardships in our positions, you know, to some degree. So, you know, I can't speak on behalf of the school district. I don't think that's my place, to address any of those questions on their behalf. I can only speak intelligently about the county side.
You've held the county side real good. You did a great job there.
Well, I want you to feel comfortable with the numbers, and you're not. Christie, can you go over the numbers one
Yeah.
more time? Don't go into the calculations, just the base millage. If we want to meet the school district budget, the county budget, what does the millage need to look like? I think that might help Glenn a little bit more than having all these numbers thrown at him.
If you want to fund the county operational budget,
As we've just passed.
okay.
Well, she can't get it over there. It's got the villages, the one that your sheet, you have the villages, it's easy to point those out and say this would go up, this would go up.
It's this page right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's proposed millage to cover approved budget is the title at the top.
Proposed millage to cover, it's page 19. I think this page makes more sense in general.
To fully fund county operational, you would need to set the millage at 70.4 mills. County bonds is going to be set at 3.5 mills. That would give the county side a total of 73.9, same as last year. To fully fund the school operational budget, you would need 115.3 mills, and school bonds is set at 31 mills. That would be a total of 220.2.
What was those numbers again?
County operations would need
No,
to,
I'm talking about for the.
For the school?
education.
115.3 mills for school operations.
Right.
County bonds is 31 mills. Total school would be 146.3.
And
Total of
that's-
220.2 mills.
That's the millage required to fund the budgets we've already approved. Okay, and since the losses came mostly from 6%, it's the 6%ers that get to make up that difference. Okay? So it's not the 4%ers that make up the difference. Does that
That's good with me.
That makes sense to you? Mr. McCall, does that make sense to you? No? All right, I'll show you that it's okay. Okay, so what do we need to do for you? What do we need to do?
Motion for what the county operational and the school operation millages will be individually.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve 73.9 total for the county and 146.3 total for the school. Is that correct? Is that the correct motion?
No, ma'am, if you'll subtract 3.5 off of the 73.9, because Ms. Hubbard is actually statutorily and constitutionally required to set that millage. So you're gonna set the operational, subtract It's 70.
70.4.
70.4 is what you'll need to set for the county if you want to leave our millage the same as it was in the prior year. And then you'll need to, for the school district side, only if you want to fund the budget as it's been presented, 115.3 is what they need to approve for the school district operations. Their current millage, as compared to that, is 110.
Oh, okay, because the 31 is for the bonds, and
Yes,
you
ma'am.
take care of bonds, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry about that. Okay,
So the current operation is 110.1, and to fund the budget as full for the school is 115.3.
okay, so you set the 31 millage for the school bonds. What about our bonds? Is that-
3.5,
That was 3.5 out of the 73.9 total?
yes,
So that was 70.4. Is that right?
yes.
Okay, so 70.4 for the county and 115.3 for school operations. Does that make sense to everybody? Does that make sense to you? Okay. So I need a motion to approve the millage, 70.4 for the county, 115.3 for school district operations. Silence is golden.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion on this topic? Glenn, do you have any more questions on this?
No, I've got the numbers here now.
Okay. Wayne, any more questions on this? No? Paul? Anybody? Okay,
But one question.
go ahead.
We're looking at 5 meal increase, and all that's coming with the school, is that correct?
School operations, yes, sir.
That's what I want to know.
Okay, so that being said, all in favor? Aye. Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hubbard, for all your work on that.
Christie, did you need these sheets signed for me? Okay, thanks.
It's over till next year.
Where were we? Okay, engineering services, this is a lot easier. Engineering services for landfill remediation. 107,128 is the project costs. Addresses. This is for the solid waste department to contract with Smith Gardner to provide engineering services for one remediation project for the closed Five Forks landfill and 2 remediation projects for the closed Class 3 Seneca landfill, projects that were mandated by DHEC. Motion to approve, do I hear?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion about this project?
I had their breakdown on how much it cost,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't put my finger on it right here, but is that the one that had $1,000 for survey and locating to Wales?
Yes, sir. Would you like me to bring my copy up to you?
Well, just tell me where it's at. I've got it here. I've read it. I just don't know.
There's no page numbers in the book. How about if I just bring mine up?
How many whales are they?
Mr. Steele, can you come up and help with some of the technical questions?
Yeah. I got it underlined somewhere. Here it is. How many wells are out there?
All total,
Yeah.
at the Seneca site, there's approximately 24 groundwater wells.
Now, this right here is probably at,
At Five Forks site,
yeah.
we have right now, I believe there's either 9 or 12, and they're fixing to add 2 more wells.
They got an estimated cost of $1,000 to locate those.
Yes, sir. It's not just locating, they also have to determine the depth of the water, the placement of the well, and a few other little odds and ends. And it's not just simply as, you have to do it by DHEC standards. You have to have a certain reference point on the landfill. And we don't have anyone local that's, constantly been in a part of it. If you hire somebody additionally, to come in, they have to reset their points, and go from that area. So that's an estimated cost right there. It's based on whoever they can get to come through the engineering, to actually do the surveying.
I've done those myself. And, I'm sure there's several surveyors in this area that can do those surveys.
Yes, sir. Last time we had a local survey, it actually cost a little bit more than $1,000 to get that done. And that was about six or 7 years ago.
You don't have, Swing, you don't still have the survey where they located them the first time?
Yes, sir, they do. It's just trying to explain the way they actually survey. They actually have to go back in there. It's in the marking and doing the depths of it. It takes a little bit more time than actually getting the survey of the water height and calculations in that measure. It's also not just finding a point. It's also doing the actual topography of the area also. So it's not just, here's a point, we just found a point on reference. It's not like surveying for your house property lines. It's not finding a point here, point A. It's actually coming in, doing a little bit of the topo also. So it's a little bit more than just finding a point
Swing, we
in
don't
reference.
still have the topo from last time they surveyed it?
Yes, but they have to do it, they have to do a new one every time they do a well. In case there's any change in height due to settling from the landfill, if there's any, like at the C&D landfill, if we went up in an area and they've had to put a well close to that point, they have to come in and do another topo. So you can't just go back and use the same topo you've done before.
Mr. Still, is that a requirement from DHEC?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We have to locate and do all the size, heights, and everything every time we provide something to DHEC.
Well, you're mandated, so you got no choice.
Yes, sir.
But this project cost isn't just for surveying, right? There's other components to it that are listed here.
That's correct. He was just talking about
Okay.
the $1,000 cost for the
For the
survey.
survey, okay.
Any other questions?
Are we still, can we go to the Seneca landfill?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
When you say go, the C&D landfill, yes, but the MSW, the trash landfill, no.
That's correct.
And which one is which?
Okay, and MSW is municipal solid waste. That's where you put trash, your household garbage, into a hole.
Yeah.
A C&D is construction and demolition. That is debris from home demolition, sheetrock, shingles, any 2x4 wood, treated lumber, anything like that actually, no, we can't take treated.
We take
Yeah,
treated.
yeah, we
Yes,
can.
sir.
Anything like that is into a C&D landfill. So we've got two out there. We've got a closed MSW, which has household garbage underground. It's been capped and closed, and all of this monitoring is part of that. Okay, that's why you have all these wells. You have to, for 30 years, I can't remember the number of years.
It's DHEC once the landfill closed, you have to test for at least 20 years unless you can prove that there is no evidence of harm to the environment or to people's health.
Okay, one of the remedies for this was to gather this water and put it in a sewer and send it to be treated, is that correct?
That is correct. When we did our presentation to the committee a while back, you have actually 4 options that you can actually look at doing. One of the first option, as we're doing at the Five Forks site, is just monitor, just continue doing what you've been doing, because you got a downward trend to the contamination levels in the groundwater. That's all in good for Five Forks. We're just adding extra wells there to show that we are doing on that downward trend. At the Seneca site, the trend is not downward at all. It's actually increasing slightly. And it's been increasing slightly since 1998 when they closed. So we've got roughly almost, right at 20 years of testing going on, that it's slowly been going up. So we either have to pump and treat, which you can do 2 different ways. You can pump and put into the sewer, or you can pump and treat on site with, once you install scrubbers or, and those type of apparatuses there to release the contaminants into the atmosphere is basically what you're doing. When we did our analysis on this portion of it, you're paying for, you really don't know how much water you're going to actually accumulate. Each well that you install to treat the water is going to pump anywhere between 5 to 10 gallons per minute. And you're looking at doing this, once you start treating it, anywhere from 15 to 20 to 30 years on down. You're actually, it's kind of like you're just treating the after effects of it. You're not actually attacking what's causing the pollution in the groundwater. What the treatment we have proposed to DHEC and DHEC is approved, you're actually going after the source. The plumb stop, as you're reading there, is actually puts a barrier. One of our issues at the Seneca landfill is we got a creek that runs on the border of the property, and the groundwater is actually flowing toward that creek. The groundwater actually breaks level with the creek elevation, and if it ever reaches into the creek, then you've got pollution that can actually go downstream. So what we're looking at doing, we have the 3 areas, which was roughly around 750 foot of on our property line that has contamination heading in that area. If we put this plumb stop in, when you inject it into the ground, it kind of stays in like a suspended into the groundwater. And the contamination, once it hits it, it's like a block wall up underneath the ground, and it stops it at that point, and it cannot reach the creek. But then on the other part of it, the HRC, the hydrogen activated hydrogen compound, you're putting in there is actually going after the source of the contamination, and it breaks it down to things that we don't have to worry about. And so, what we're actually doing is we're treating it now, and also keeping it from the creek, and also going after the actual source versus just getting the after effects once the water has gone through, and it's going to just stay there. And the source is actually moving with it. If you go back 20 years ago, contamination levels were up closer to where our scale house was at, and it's slowly moving across the landfill as the groundwater moves. Groundwater moves in our landfill about 10 feet a year. So it's moved about 200 foot down. So we've still got a long way to go. And so if you're just treating groundwater, you can be out there for years. Landfills all over the state have been pumping and treating for many years. Once we ran the numbers over a 10-year time frame of just pumping and treating, you're looking at more than what we're actually looking to put in if we do the entire 750 foot of the property. By putting the injection ports in and putting the material in, we've got a potential that it can go and stop the contamination and actually shorten the amount of time frame that we actually have to do testing in the long run. I hope that made sense.
Is this proven?
It is proven. It has been done. It's been done in a few landfills, and it has dropped the contamination levels within a 6 to 12 month time frame. But it's been proven even more so on like brownfield sites where they've gone in. Companies have closed down and left highly contaminated areas. They've gone in there, injected it into the ground, and they've been able to clean those up in years, in a couple years versus 10 or 15 years.
Well, I keep saying this. In here it says something about DHEC making this a project, to tell where it's working or not.
Yes, sir. We are actually doing a small portion of it. One of the concerns you have, especially in this area, is the rock infrastructure underground. Unlike the lower part of the state where you can just drill into the ground, it's just a wide open aquifer. Here, you may have a portion, then you may have a rock fissure in the ground that may break into like a sheet of glass that's broke. You may hit a pocket of water here, a pocket of water over here, and there may be nothing in the middle. So that's what a lot of problems. They're going to look at trying to make sure that over each one of these sections, they're actually getting enough in the ground to spread through all the fissures so nothing leaks by. So we're going to do a trial process, because if you inject it in the ground and it does not work, you've only spent just a small portion of the project. They're pretty sure they're hoping it's going to work. Like I said, it's a gamble either way. You're hoping to go for the best up front, something we can go after the source of the material. We know the plume stop will definitely work. It's just making sure you can get the other out there far enough into the groundwater to reach the source, which they're going to do test wells before they actually start injecting into the injection ports.
And DHEC has approved this.
Yes, sir.
Well, this letter to you in August the 17th, that said DHEC hadn't approved it yet.
Yes, sir. We got a letter a few weeks ago. Yes, sir. They've already approved it. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other comments?
I mean, this is incredible. You can inject something in the ground to prevent groundwater. I mean, that's just amazing. Thank God for science.
Right.
Really amazing. I'm amazed.
I want to ask you one thing not related to this. Why is it municipalities are putting all this brush and stuff in the C&D landfill? If I put you on the spot, I'm sorry. I didn't mean
Because
to.
they refuse to separate out the other material from the brush.
That's horrible.
They collect them and cross-contaminate the types of materials, the brush and
horrible. It's
and other debris, and they refuse to separate them.
It's based on their cost. If they got one truck going down the road and they picking up brush, couches, the whole 9 yards set out there, they're just going to pick it up with one truck versus sending 2 trucks and 2 guys and a tractor. So you're looking, every town's they've got their budget too, and we have no mandate saying they have to separate. There's nothing in place for that. So we encourage them as much as possible. But as budgets have crunched, they refuse to separate most of their stuff.
Thing gonna fill up on us.
Yes, sir.
What, can we mandate that?
Absolutely. Mandate on everybody.
I mean, that seems like we're using very valuable space, to Mr. McCall's point, on things that could be ground up and turned into something we could sell like mulch.
Or you start charging them for C&D, but let them drop the brush for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
They'll pull it out in a hurry. Right now, we don't charge them.
if you
Can't
go
charge
down
them
there
for
right
trash.
now, his attendants will tell you, don't put the brush out of your truck in this. You can put everything else but the brush. I mean, his guys are on their toes now. But then right beside you, a municipal truck comes in, dumps logs, brush, everything in.
And Mr. Mulder's correct. There are actually several landfills throughout the state where they've actually got a fee structure in place for even residents and for municipalities, stating that if you've got shingles, they have a lower rate, especially if you separate other building materials with that, or brush or anything else that may go with it. They have it infrastructured out. So brush is at one price or free, depending on what you're doing with it. And like also, we've got the concrete crushing out there now. We try to incentivize that to, if anyone calls us and we tell them, hey, you're doing a demolition project, if you can separate the rock, block and brick and everything out certain size, we'll let you dump that at no charge. And we've got some that they'll take the time to do it, and then we got some that they just dump everything at one time.
Well, they're gonna have to, eventually, those people are gonna have to pay.
Yes, sir.
How long do you think we got on the C&D?
Currently, this past year, we have, we're filled up a lot quicker because we took a lot of bulkier material. Our tonnage didn't go up. We just had a lot of bulky material, a lot of stumps, things that we can't grind, a lot of large area. At our current pace, we may have about 10 to 12 years left at our current site. And then we've also got some stuff going in along with this plan here to DHEC to re-permit the entire site as a C&D. We've got a couple holdups that we're trying to get worked out. But right now, on our current site, we may have 10 to 15 years at most.
We're gonna have to do something quick.
Yes, sir.
Or we're gonna have this giant Mount Boulder out there.
If we, if we can get the additional properties re-permitted or amended to permit those additional properties, how long would we have then?
We would have about 100, we would have at least 125 years of life if we get the old MSW, what we're talking about doing a piggyback on top of the old MSW landfill. We've got a couple issues with some variances to some of the properties around about us that we're trying to work with. Once we can get those worked out. We've already submitted some stuff to DHEC, getting a demonstration of need. With a landfill, you have to go through it's a 3-step process. You submit a demonstration of need saying, do we actually need this landfill space to be permitted in the county? Since we're the about the only one that actually takes everything as far as C&D. We've got some LCD landfills in the county owned by private individuals. There's a couple. One is like a partial C&D that's owned by individual. But since we're the largest that takes everything, usually we get a demonstration of need without an issue. And then it comes down to the setbacks and those rules that apply, and then going into the public comment section. And then once you get through past that, then you're kind of home free. But that usually takes anywhere from a year to 3 years to get approved. So.
Do you think it's likely we'll get that approval from DHEC?
It looks that way since they kind of helped us suggest that. So it's just getting the variances taken care of with the neighboring properties.
But I do think we need to address the issue of folks dumping things in there that could be turned into a saleable product.
Those are all discussions that I'll have with
Yeah.
the cities as part of the goals you guys established. Municipal recycling was one of those items. So those are all cumulative items that we'll discuss with them when we look at the overall recycling program and incentives or penalties that we need to hand down in order to generate better recycling. So
Do the cities recycle?
To a point, they have some commercial recycling. Seneca has a commercial cardboard route. Walhalla has a cardboard and paper route. But we've instituted Seneca has a little drop-off area right in front of their shop, and now Westminster and Walhalla both have a recycling center set up that's unmanned that the residents can bring to them. But none of them go door to door anymore picking up household recyclables.
Okay, anything else? We ready to approve the engineering services? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Still.
Okay, Part 2, sole source award to Regenesis Bioremediation Products, Inc., solid waste, $269,500.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval to seek bids for purchase of rock quarry crushing plant and ancillary expenses.
Motion to approve?
Make the motion.
Second?
Okay, any discussion on this?
Rick, is that the one you had the pictures of?
yes, sir. Well, we can't propose a individual crushing unit right now because we've got to go through the bidding process. The pictures we showed you were similar and very alike the ones that we will be speccing to have bid through the process.
Similar but not related to, but part of.
Maybe.
And maybe.
Rick just got moss written all over it. Okay.
Do we have a motion and a second on this?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Discussion of extension of due diligence review period and closing deadlines in relation to the old courthouse renovation. We did receive a letter from the attorneys Rogers, Lewis, Jackson, Mann, and Quinn. I think the letter is self-explanatory, and it does sound positive, given the added time. Do I hear a motion to approve
So moved.
the extension?
Second.
Madam
Okay,
Chair?
any discussion? What?
If I could just jump in.
Sure.
Looking over the letter, this is all, of course, up to you, and I don't want to go and request something that they haven't requested. They requested October 30th, but when I read the letter and the items that they still need to do, they still need to submit back again to archives and history. Then they'll need to submit to the National Park Service. And in closing, he says he feels comfortable with a closing on the land transfer at the end of October or early November. I'm thinking there may be a little tight. So it's November 30th in my mind. So we're not coming back here. It's just a
Again?
thought.
So shall we amend this to state November 30th rather than October 30th?
If that's what you feel comfortable with, I think it makes sense.
What do you think? You the attorney?
I'm not giving any legal advice.
We're not paying them into a corner is what I'm asking.
I know how slow attorneys are. We might want to give them until December 31st. 2018. No, I'm kidding. No, I have no problem. Did I make the motion or did you make the motion, Mr. McCall?
You seconded. He
Okay.
made the motion.
Whatever you, we not gonna pay them in a corner, David?
I think this gives them more time, and I think so we're not back here on October 20th asking for another 30
For another
days.
30 days.
Okay.
Okay, do we need a motion to amend?
Yes, ma'am.
Make 'em-
Second.
Okay, any discussion, further discussion on this amendment? All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Okay, so do we need another motion to approve as
I
amended?
think we just have it
Or
on
just
the
a
floor.
vote?
Just a vote.
Okay, so let's vote on the, whatever you want to call this, as amended.
Extension.
The extension of due diligence as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Board and commission appointments, I didn't see any new applicants out there.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Well, we need to think about how we're going to address this, though. Any suggestions?
No, ma'am, you just, we got nobody
Lack of
who's
interest?
just interested. I mean,
We can start paying them.
Somebody, I'll have to try harder.
Okay, well, let's try harder. All right, let's skip that for now. Any unfinished business? New business? We need to come up with a date for the joint meeting between us and the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission wants a joint workshop, if you will. And I was looking at the calendar, and I tossed around the idea of having it on a Tuesday where we don't have any council or committee meetings. And the next available Tuesday would be at the end of this month or towards the end of October. I think they preferred an October date. What's the last Tuesday in October? October 20?
Halloween, but the week prior to that is October 24th.
Okay, October 24th, there's nothing scheduled, no committee meetings and the like?
I don't have anything on my calendar at this point, Madam Chair. We've got a council meeting September 17th and then nothing the next two Tuesdays. I mean, October, what did I say? I said September, I meant October.
October 24th then?
October 24th should be available.
Okay, well, let's get back to them with that date and see what kind of response we get.
Will you get back with them and see what kind of response we get?
Okay, October 24th? All right. And we have no council committee reports. We need to recess to executive session to receive legal advice and discuss a contractual matter related to infrastructure located and/or serving the Golden Corner Commerce Park, and to receive legal advice and discuss employment personnel matters related to workforce reduction in the treasurer and auditor's office, and discuss employee personnel matter related to the assessor's office. Do I have a motion to recess?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, do I hear a motion to reconvene?
Yep.
Make a
Second.
motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
No action was taken in executive session, and no motions are needed, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good, we're done.